The morning sun cast long golden beams across the quiet cemetery, but nothing about the man sitting alone beside the marble headstone felt warm. For the third year in a row, Billionaire CEO Alaric Voss arrived before sunrise carrying the same bouquet of white lilies, wearing the same charcoal coat, and carrying the same unbearable grief. From a distance, he looked like a man who had everything. Up close, he looked like someone who had lost the only thing that ever mattered. The polished black stone before him carried the name of his wife, Mirelle Voss, the woman who had stood beside him long before private jets, magazine covers, and billion-dollar acquisitions became part of his life. She had been his home. And now, all he had left was a grave. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can heal even the deepest wounds and that everyone deserves a second chance at happiness, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to Kindness Hub for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters. Alaric had built one of the largest technology companies in the country, employing thousands of people across multiple continents. Business magazines called him visionary. Financial analysts called him brilliant. Investors called him unstoppable. But none of those titles meant anything after the rainy afternoon 3 years earlier when a distracted driver ran a red light and took Mirelle away from him. For months after her funeral, Alaric stopped attending social events. He ignored invitations from friends. He sold their vacation home because he could not bear seeing her favorite chair overlooking the ocean. The mansion they had designed together became nothing more than a silent museum filled with memories he could never escape. He buried himself in work because work demanded nothing from his heart. Employees admired his discipline but feared his distance. Meetings became shorter. Smiles became rare. Even his closest executives noticed how the warmth had disappeared from his eyes. Every year, on the anniversary of Mirelle's passing, he visited her grave alone. It was the only appointment he never missed. That particular morning seemed no different until he noticed movement near the neighboring gravesite. A young woman in a faded blue sweater was kneeling beside a simple headstone while a little girl sat nearby, arranging wildflowers into a small circle. The child could not have been older than 6. Unlike the expensive bouquets surrounding the cemetery, their flowers had clearly been picked by hand. The little girl looked up and noticed Alaric sitting by himself. Children, unlike adults, rarely fear silence or social expectations. They simply follow their hearts. She walked toward him carefully, carrying a tiny yellow flower between her fingers. Her mother called softly for her to come back, but the little girl kept walking. When she reached Alaric, she studied his face with innocent curiosity. She handed him the flower. Then, in the gentle honesty that only children possess, she asked why he looked so lonely and whether he needed a family today because nobody should visit someone they love all by themselves. For a moment, Alaric forgot how to breathe. No boardroom negotiation, no financial crisis, and no difficult decision had ever affected him the way those simple words did. The little girl's mother quickly approached, apologizing for her daughter's boldness. Her name was Serafina Hale. She explained that her daughter, Junie, often tried to comfort strangers because she believed sadness was easier to carry when shared. Alaric assured her that no apology was necessary. In fact, it was the first genuine human interaction he had experienced in months. As they spoke, he learned that Serafina visited the cemetery every Sunday morning to see her late father, who had raised her alone after her mother left when she was a child. Life had not been easy for her. She worked 2 jobs, struggled to pay rent, and spent every free moment making sure Junie never felt deprived of love, even when money was scarce. Despite everything she carried, she still smiled. Not because life had been kind to her, but because she had decided not to let hardship make her bitter. Alaric found himself listening more than speaking. It surprised him. For years, people had approached him because of his wealth or influence. Conversations usually revolved around opportunities, investments, or expectations. Serafina wanted nothing from him. She didn't even recognize him at first. To her, he was simply a grieving man sitting alone. Before leaving, Junie placed another wildflower beside Morel's grave. The gesture was so small, yet it filled an empty space inside Alaric that he thought had disappeared forever. For the first time in years, he left the cemetery feeling something unfamiliar. Not happiness. Not peace. Just the faintest possibility that life might still have something left to offer. Over the following weeks, Alaric found himself returning to the cemetery on Sunday mornings. At first, he convinced himself he was there to visit Morel more often. But deep down, he knew the truth. He wanted to see Serafina and Junie again. Their conversations remained simple. They talked about books, favorite meals, childhood memories, and the small joys that often go unnoticed. Junie proudly shared stories about school projects and the imaginary adventures she created with her stuffed animals. Serafina spoke honestly about the challenges of raising a child alone. Alaric listened. Really listened. And slowly, the walls around his heart began to crack. One afternoon, heavy rain forced them to take shelter inside a nearby cafe. That was when Alaric finally revealed who he was. He expected the usual reaction. Shock. Awkwardness. Distance. Instead, Serafina simply nodded. His wealth did not impress her. His grief moved her far more than his success ever could. She told him that pain was the great equalizer. Loss did not care about bank accounts. Loneliness did not discriminate. Everyone carried invisible battles. Those words stayed with him long after they parted ways. For the first time since Morel's death, Alaric allowed himself to talk openly about his wife. He shared stories about their early struggles, the tiny apartment they once shared, and the dreams they built together. Instead of avoiding her memory, Serafina encouraged it. She understood that healing did not mean forgetting. It meant learning how to carry love differently. Months passed. Alaric began making changes. He started leaving the office before sunset. He reinstated employee wellness programs that had been cut during difficult financial periods. He created a foundation in Morel's name to support widowed parents and children grieving the loss of loved ones. His employees noticed the difference immediately. The demanding CEO who had once seemed emotionally unreachable started asking people how they were doing. He learned the names of their children. He listened. The company flourished, but more importantly, so did the people within it. Yet despite these changes, Alaric remained afraid. He worried that opening his heart again somehow dishonored Morel's memory. Guilt followed him everywhere. One evening, while organizing old photographs, he found a letter Morel had written years earlier for their future anniversary. Inside, she had written that love was never meant to become a prison. She hoped that if anything ever happened to one of them, the other would keep living fully. Not existing. Living. Alaric sat in silence for hours holding that letter. For the first time, he gave himself permission to imagine a future that included joy. A few weeks later, he invited Serafina and Junie to visit the Foundation's new community center. Children ran through brightly painted hallways while families attended support groups and grief counseling sessions. Near the entrance stood a plaque dedicated to Morel. Junie read the inscription carefully before hugging Alaric without hesitation. That simple embrace broke something open inside him. Not the painful kind of breaking. The healing kind. The kind that lets light enter places grief once occupied. As the seasons changed, so did their lives. Weekend visits turned into family dinners. Family dinners turned into traditions. The enormous mansion that once echoed with silence slowly filled with laughter, spilled juice, school artwork, and bedtime stories. For the first time in years, Alaric stopped dreading the sound of an empty house. He realized that love had not returned to replace what he lost. It had arrived to help him carry it. On the 4th anniversary of Morel's passing, Alaric returned to the cemetery once again. But this time, he wasn't alone. Serafina stood beside him holding his hand while Junie carefully arranged fresh white lilies around the headstone. The morning's sunlight felt different. Softer. Warmer. Peaceful. Alaric knelt beside the grave and thanked Morel for the years they shared, for the love that shaped him, and for teaching him that even after unimaginable loss, the human heart still has room to grow. He understood something important that day. Moving forward is not betrayal. Healing is not forgetting. And opening your heart again does not erase the people you loved before. It honors them. Because the greatest gift love gives us is not the pain we feel when it's gone. It's the courage to keep sharing it. If this story has touched your heart in any way, please like this video, share it with someone who may be carrying silent grief, and subscribe to Kindness Hub so we can continue spreading stories of hope, compassion, and second chances. Special request: comment below with the words, "Love still finds a way," if you believe healing is possible even after life's darkest moments. Some people enter our lives for a season, and some stay forever in our hearts. But the love they leave behind can become the bridge that leads us back to life. And sometimes, all it takes to change someone's future is a small act of kindness from a stranger who refuses to let them grieve alone.